Hey, welcome back to GT Canada. Today we've got a massive review of back button options for your PlayStation 5 and sort of for your PlayStation 4. This video will be a dual purpose video. I have a PlayStation 5, I also have a PlayStation 4. This video's primary goal is to show you back button options on your PlayStation 5. However, some of the solutions that we're providing here are also able to be implemented on your PlayStation 4 if you don't have a PlayStation 5 yet, and I'll show you how you can kind of future-proof yourself so that when you do get a PlayStation 5, you'll already have the hardware that you're used to. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing down below, and don't forget to hit like on this video. That helps us to know what content to make for you guys for our next video. Let's talk about what you see on the table here. Now, it's obviously very lopsided more to this side of the table versus this side. So I'm going to kind of set the stage for you a little bit, because when I got my PlayStation 5, I was completely shocked at how I was being restricted from being able to use the setup that I was used to using. So my setup on my PlayStation 4 was a PlayStation 4 DualShock controller, obviously, with this, which is a Strike Pack add-on mod. So this just clips right onto the front USB and then saddles like that. So this is what my setup was. Now, I know a lot of people know that the Strike Pack does include cheat functions, and I've talked about this in other videos, but I'll say it again just in case you haven't seen it. I don't cheat. I don't use any of the cheating functions on here. I simply use it to add back buttons to the controller. I do live stream when I play on Twitch. You can check me out, GT Canada. If you think I might be cheating, watch the stream. You'll see that I'm either the world's worst cheater or that I'm not cheating. So this was my setup, right? And when I got my PlayStation 5, the first thing I did was booted up Cold War. We had just got a copy of Cold War. I plugged it in. As I was loading in, I got an error message that says, PlayStation 4 controller is not supported on PlayStation 5 Games. So immediately I was locked out of using the controller configuration I was used to. That meant I had to use the new DualSense controller. Now, I'm not complaining about the DualSense controller. It is an awesome controller and it adds amazing features with the haptic feedback and the triggers and all that is just phenomenal when you're playing an experiential game, your more story-based games. This controller truly comes alive in those situations. However, if you're playing a competitive multiplayer online game, this controller with all its fancy new immersion techniques are not going to help you in that. The realism will be improved, but even when I was using my DualShock controller, I had the vibration function shut off because it really doesn't help. It actually hinders your game having little motors vibrating the controller when you're trying to just focus on shooting somebody. So even on the DualSense, I had all those features turned off. It was now just functioning as a regular controller. I turned the buttons off. I turned the haptic feedback off. I turned it all off. So I was now at a disadvantage because I didn't have back buttons. What I did at the time was I actually installed a back button kit, which I brought from the UK actually and put it in. Now, I made a video showing how I installed this. It did require soldering, drilling, gluing, and all that, so it is not a very DIY friendly kit. If you saw one of my other videos reviewing the Extreme Rate No Solder Back Button Install Kit, you've seen that I really enjoy this kit. It's easy to install and it's easy to use. But at the end of that video, I said that I actually have a different setup that I currently use that is not this Extreme Rate. So check out my review on this. The Extreme Rate is actually very good. Side note, all of the products you see here, I will have a link in the description so that if you see any that you like or you want to try, click the links down in the description to be taken right to the Amazon store where you can purchase these items. The Extreme Rate is really good for those that are using a DualSense controller and want to have the full experience and have back buttons. That's the best option out there. But the configuration that I'm using still to this day is this one right here. Now I know if you're watching this video, you heard me already at the beginning say, but I got booted out of Cold War, the PlayStation 5 copy of Cold War, and couldn't play with this. That was until I found there is a workaround. And that's where this comes in. Now, if you haven't seen this, I'm sure you have, but this is the Cronus Zen mod kit, if you will. This device is widely known and accepted as a cheat device. It has some amazing cheats that are built right into it that make it super easy for somebody to, I'm not going to call it hacking because they're not hacking. They're not writing code to get in and breach the security wall or the security system. They're just plugging this in, picking some buttons on a computer and cheating. Unfortunately, in order to use my setup or any of the products you see here on the table, you have to have a Cronus Zen. You also have to have either a Hori controller, which I will link in the description, or Cronus has come up with a new, they call it the PS5 dongle. And what that does is allows you to plug it into here, and it will allow you to use a PlayStation 4 controller on PlayStation 5 games. I use this in order to let me use this with my Strike Pack mod on the back, so that when I'm playing PlayStation 5 games, I can use my original PlayStation 4 setup. Now, before I get too far into this, you may be asking, well, with your extreme rate, it does the same thing and doesn't enable a cheat device. Why wouldn't you just use this? I wish I could just use this. Now, I'm going to insert my opinion here. I want to make sure it's clearly understood. This is my opinion. There's no fact to this. This is just what I prefer. I find the shape of the PlayStation 5 controller, when compared to the PlayStation 4 controller, I'm just not feeling this part right here. The way that I hold it, I feel like my hands are just kicked out a little bit too far versus the PlayStation 4 controller. The PlayStation 4 controller feels more in line. So it could be just that I'm used to it. I've been using this for the last 8 years now, so maybe I'm just used to that. I do remember when I had the PlayStation 3 and going from the PlayStation 3 controller to this, it was also weird, but it was weird in a similar way. And what I mean by that was the PlayStation 3 controller, this just isn't as long. So once we elongate that out, I'm able to actually hold it in the ball of my hand better. So I like the grip factor of this while still having the back buttons. Versus this, it tapers down to a point a little bit too much. And I was finding I was accidentally hitting these buttons. I think that's something you could get used to quite easily. So if you did want to go this route, you could just use it, get used to it, and it'll be just fine. There was another side reason why I prefer this, and that is the DualShock controller is cheaper than a DualSense controller. And with everyone complaining about controller drift, where the analog sticks wear out prematurely, I wear out a DualShock controller once a year. Basically every year I get a new one. And usually my run button stops working, my L3. But they're cheap. You can get one for, $70, $50 on a Boxing Day sale in Canada. Whereas the PlayStation 4 controllers, more expensive to start with, and they're holding their value. So I'd rather wear out a PlayStation 4 controller for now, where when it wears out, I just go like this, I pop that off, buy a new controller, throw this out, and then put this onto the new controller. Now, I know I told you this was going to be a long video and I haven't even really got into the review of the back button options. So I'm just going to review what they are and what I like about them and what I dislike about them. So I'm going to do it in order. If you haven't noticed already, I do have chapters down below. So if there's any particular ones here that you're most interested in, you can click through to that chapter. Now, all of these devices are available on Amazon. Again, there's a link in the description down below so you can check out what it is, what the cost is, and that sort of thing. So we understand that to use any of these devices, you must have this Cronus Zen device. I did make another video showing you exactly how to set this up with my Strike Pack controller mod. This will be the exact same setup for any of these controller mods. Okay, so I don't need to review how to set this up. Go check that video. I'll actually put the link down in the description as well so that you can find that video easily. So we know that you need that with all of these. First, I'm going to review the Strike Pack. The Strike Pack is made by Collective Minds. The things I like about this controller, the buttons actually are held on by little magnets, like that. So you can actually you can mod this out if you want. You can get different wings so that the orientation is on the controller differently. You can get different colors, different lengths, whatever. They are quite clicky, you can hear. I like how it goes on the controller easily. And I like the orientation of where that button is and how low profile they are on the controller. So they don't stick out real far. It allows you to grip the controller really well and still use it. Now this will work on your PlayStation 4 right now, and it'll work on your PlayStation 5 when you upgrade, or if you have it right now, it'll work right now, as long as you have that Zen. The thing to know about this, you must use it in a wired configuration. That means for it to work, you have to have a USB cord plugged in from here to your Cronus Zen, and from your Cronus Zen to your PlayStation 5. This is not a wireless setup, so you need to be close enough to the console that you can have that cable. It's a 10-foot long cable that comes with it, so it does reach quite far. It works just fine in my configuration. However, there's now a cord that you have to worry about. You can never use this in wireless mode. Okay, so that could be a downside for you. If you have to use a wireless controller for whatever reason, this is not the option you're looking for. If you're okay with wires, so far, this is the option I like the most. There is a couple contenders in this list, and I'm gonna go over those. So I'm gonna put this over here because we've talked about it. The next thing I wanna talk about is the factory Sony, and I'll show you right here. That's the box for it. This is the regular DualShock back button mod that everybody knew first of all. The nice thing about this is it attaches to the controller from the back port, which allows you to charge from the front. It works off of batteries, or it works off of the power from the PlayStation 4 controller, and it works in full wireless mode. You can use it wirelessly with this. This has a Bluetooth option that will pair to this. So you can use this exact configuration on your PlayStation 4 and go to your PlayStation 5 and use it exactly the same. If you're familiar with this, you already know if you like it or if you don't like it. The things that I like about it are, it's got a little OLED screen there that highlights your button configuration. You can see the layout there and you can change it easily on the fly. That's very nice. It includes a headphone jack because you've used the headphone port to help stabilize this. So it comes with its own headphone port so you can use them wirelessly. The downside to using this with the headphone output and the Cronus Zen is that the Cronus Zen does not actually support the mic through option. So any of the back buttons that you have that have a mic or a headset option will not work for the headset. The back buttons will work, but in order to use a headset, especially with a mic, you would need something that also has a USB dongle that you can plug into your PlayStation 5 or your PlayStation 4 and then wirelessly connect your headset. It's not a big deal for me because I use Astro A40s, which are also a wired headset, but they have a USB connection for all audio. So that's something to consider when you're doing this setup at all, period. So this particular one, I also do not like how bumpy these buttons are. They stick up too far for me. You can't really see very well, but when I'm gripping it, I lose grip force because these, I just can't get my fingers on them. So when this first came out, I actually bought it, tried it, didn't like it, and then sold it. The reason I have this one again is because I used it for another video, and that's all I use it for video purposes. That covers the factory DualShock back button option. So now I want to talk about this guy. Now this is called the Starscream back button attachment. It says it's for PlayStation 4, but it also says it'll work on PS3, Nintendo Switch, Android, and PC. This one connects to the front USB port and it adds 4 buttons, which is great if you need to have 4 buttons. Now, the button placement on here is a little bit suspect for me. I'm not used to a 4-button controller mod, so if you're used to 4 buttons, this is a great option. However, this does not work with the PlayStation 5. It will not pair to the Cronus Zen at all in any way. It just doesn't work. So this one, if you're looking at this, and you're thinking, hey, I want to use that on my PlayStation 5, it won't work at all. I've tried a number of different ways. It does not work. But it makes up for that for me in the fact that this will allow you to use a PlayStation 4 controller with your Nintendo Switch. And I know a lot of you are like, well, the Switch controller is perfect in every way. Why would you want to use a PlayStation 4 controller? Well, I'm used to the PlayStation 4 controller when I'm playing on the Switch with my kids. This is what I use, not to add the back buttons, but just so that I can use my PlayStation 4 controller with the Switch. It works beautifully for that. It'll also pair to your computer, to your Android device, your PlayStation 4, your PlayStation 3, and it works flawlessly just to connect to your DualShock 4 controller to those other devices, even if you don't want to use the back buttons. I included it in this review because it is a very interesting device. It works beautifully for what it works for, but if you're looking at it for your PlayStation 5, forget about it. It will not work. So I'm going to take this off the table. The next one I want to talk about is this guy. So this is very generic, PlayStation 4 paddles, and that's it. The neat thing about this, it actually connects up exactly the same as the DualShock 4 official attachment. So it has a little plug that plugs in there. So when I'm attaching this, it attaches just like that. The other thing is, the reason they can keep the cost so low is because you'll see right there, they do not cover the headphone jack. So you can use the headphones on your PlayStation 4 normally and add the back buttons. The back buttons on here are actually a little bit more low profile than the DualShock 4 official back button attachment, which I like. It is programmable. You can see right here, you just toggle through the button that you want to program this to, or you want to program this to. So it's very easy to program. The options for buttons are R1, R2, R3, triangle, square, circle, triangle, X, circle, square, L1, L2, L3. And you just set those. And there's little lights that light up to say that it's been mapped to that. There's also a turbo button, which means if you map this, say, to R2, for example, it would create kind of a fake rapid fire and could be used as a cheat device. Unfortunately, there's no timing adjustment for that rapid fire. So depending on the gun you're using, it'll actually fire slower than if you just hold the trigger button down yourself without this mod. So it's not like a real good cheat device. But the nice thing is, this pairs beautifully through wireless Bluetooth on here. It also pairs completely through Bluetooth to your PlayStation 4. So there's no cord required, just like this. So if a cord or having a cord was a hindrance to you or a problem, this one is a cordless back button option in exactly the same way as this. However, this one's like $15. And again, the link's in the description. You can buy it yourself. It's cheaper than this. I actually like it better for how it feels in the hand, the programmability, and it's just the no frills. There's no gimmicks, there's no nothing. You just put it on, it does exactly what you expect it to do, and that's all. There's no fancy screens, there's no fancy audio device, there's none of that. It just clips on and it works. So if you need a wireless option, that's the one I recommend. That leaves one final device, and that's this guy. And this is called the AOLION PS4 controller adapter with mods and elite paddles. The thing I love about this controller, well, here, I'll stick it on first. So this one goes on exactly the same way as my Strike Pack goes on. And just like the Strike Pack, these buttons are actually removable, these little legs. So you can see they come right off, and they're metal. So they actually have a nice weight to them, and they go on really nicely, just like that. And then when they click, they're clicky. So these are actually very, very well, they're high quality. They do include a turbo option similar to this one, so it can be used somewhat for cheating, but again, it's not like a rapid fire, it's just a turbo. So it's just the same timing, just bang, 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 bang. And it could be slower than what you're used to, but it could be mapped for other functions as well. The complaint I have with this is that the buttons sit very, I don't know if you can see that, they sit very high off of the controller. So when you're holding it, you are definitely holding buttons on there. It makes it hard to use and you end up accidentally pushing buttons that you didn't mean to push. Now, because these are metal, I think that you could bend them to fit much, much better without breaking, and you could get a lot more streamlined approach to it. The downside to this, just like the Strike Pack, you must have the cable plugged in for it to work. So this is a wired option. It has to be wired. For that reason, I don't recommend it as the go-to option. It is very nice. The price is very nice. It's reasonably cheap, but, and if you need 4 quick back buttons, this is the only way really to get them on there in a way that works very well with the PlayStation 5 or the PlayStation 4. So you remember this guy that I threw away. This actually doesn't work at all on the PlayStation 5. There's no way at all to use it. So out of all of these options, this is the only one that adds 4 buttons. So this can be used on your PlayStation 4 wired and your PlayStation 5 wired as long as you have this. My current setup is still a Strike Pack back button mod with a Cronus Zen on the DualShock 4 controller. I have all the vibration options turned off. I use Astro A40 headset with an optical connection off my TV for full Dolby surround sound. And that's what I use for, I'm gonna put in air quotes, competitive gaming. I'm not good at the game. I've won a few times in Warzone and that sort of thing. I really enjoy it, but it's a challenge for me, and I'm not like these streamers that are super amazing. If you want to check me out, go ahead, check me out on Twitch, but that's my setup. It helps me to have that back buttons to do extra functions. If you must do a wireless connection, this is what I recommend. Strictly for the price, it is cheap, it does what you expect it to do, and it's wireless. If you don't care about wired, I prefer this, but I would still recommend this. Simply because there's no major benefit of this over this. And if you're getting used to back buttons anyway, you might as well get used to a low profile one. If you don't want to use a Cronus Zen, because again, all of these options require a Cronus Zen, so you do have to buy this hardware to use any one of these options. I think it's worth it because the cost of the DualShock 4 controller is so much less than a PlayStation 5 controller. You can easily cover the cost of this as soon as you have to buy one PlayStation 5 controller. It becomes a no-brainer. If you want to stick with PlayStation 5, the Extreme Rate controller back button option is the way to go. Again, I did a review on that. You can see the install and my review on this specifically. So, in my opinion, this is the best way to go. If you have a PlayStation 4 or a PlayStation 5 or plan to upgrade to a PlayStation 5, this is the way to go. Get this while you can. Links are in the description. Go with this setup right here. Know that this configuration is out there and available if that's what you want to do. I know there's a lot to take in. Hopefully you caught it all. If you do have any questions, post them in the comments below. I do watch those and I do monitor them and answer those questions as they come in. Don't forget to check out some of our other videos over here. We do have a lot of great PlayStation 5 content as well as automotive content. We'd love to see you again, but until next time, have a great day.